Welcome to the You on the Camino de Santiago podcast. This podcast is for and about first-time pilgrims walking the pilgrimage routes in Spain, France, and Portugal. With your host, guide and longtime pilgrim, Nancy Reynolds of the Camino Experience. For many people, a pilgrimage on the Camino de Santiago is a deeply personal and spiritual journey. It's a way to get closer to God and to share their faith. That is exactly what this is for my guest today, Kimberly. Nancy here to share this inspiring story. After a debilitating illness that had her bedridden for 7 years, Kimberly is stepping out onto the Camino to deepen her faith and express her gratitude. This is a woman who loves life and who knows just how precious every day is. Kimberly also shows us the value of making this pilgrimage with friends, with your people. Any way you do it is valid, and I believe that each person ultimately chooses the way that is best for them. But there is definitely something to be said for sharing this journey with people who know you well, who know you at your best and at your worst, and who love you anyway. Kimberly has been using my Camino Frances audio guide to plan the pilgrimage for herself and the 5 friends who are joining her on the trail. If you have been planning your own pilgrimage, then you may have noticed that there is a lot to it. There are a lot of moving parts, mile-long to-do lists, and many decisions to make before you can even book your flights. You may be thinking, wouldn't it be nice if there was, a kit for this? You open the box, pull out the contents, follow the instructions, and voila, you have a pilgrimage on the Camino de Santiago. If that's what you've been looking for, I have it for you. I've mentioned a couple of times that I was planning to rename my Camino Frances Getting Started audio guide, and I have, to something that makes way more sense. It's now called the Camino Planning Kit, because that is exactly what it is. Okay, it doesn't come in a box. Because so much of our world is now digital, the planning kit is online, on a website, and in an app. That means you can take it with you wherever you go and step by step build out your Camino plans and write your Camino story as you go. I'm mentioning this now because I have a promotion coming up soon, and I want to be sure you know about it. I'll tell you about the promotion in a minute, but first I want to share with you why you might care and why you might want to know a bit more about this. Here's why. With the Camino Planning Kit, you will get to know the Camino Frances and what it means to start your pilgrimage in Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port. You'll find out how hard it really is to walk over the Pyrenees. You'll be able to design the Camino experience that's right for you. You're going to save a ton of time getting your flights, trains, and buses booked using the video tutorials that walk you through the entire process. You'll get your route from your arrival airport to Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port set up and your beds or rooms booked for all or part of your journey. You will know how to pack only the gear and clothes you need for this kind of a trip, and you will be able to select the boots, backpack, rain gear, and sleep gear that's right for you. With the planning kit, you are going to navigate your way to Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port like a seasoned, savvy traveler, even if you aren't that right now. And then once you're on the trail, you're going to quickly find your Camino rhythm, along with food and other services you need each day. With the planning kit, you will make your way to Santiago de Compolstela with confidence. You will plan without over-planning, prepare without over-preparing. And this might be the most important part for some of you. You will give your family the peace of mind they crave, knowing you have the help of an experienced guide and pilgrim. I don't want you to miss out on this planning kit, so I'm going to be taking 20% off the kit from Friday, April 25th through Tuesday, May 6th. That's 2025 in case you're listening to this episode later. I know those dates seem a bit random, but I'm offering this for 12 days because there are 12 key modules in the planning kit. If you would like to learn what those modules are and grab the kit for yourself when the promo starts, please go to my website, thecaminoexperience.com/kit. That's KIT. The link for that is also in the show notes. You won't need a coupon code. Nothing tricky. Just take a look at what's in there. And if you're planning to walk the Camino Frances and you are planning to start in Saint-Jean-Pied-du-Port, go ahead and set yourself up for a smooth ride through the planning process and all the way through to your return home. You can get the planning kit now, or you can wait for the promo, which starts on Friday, April 25th, and get 20% off. What else do I need to tell you? Oh yes, I will be on the Camino Frances in May, and if you are too, and if we are going to be in the same town or city, I would love to meet up. How will we connect? Easy. I will be posting on Facebook and Instagram regularly. I hope daily. So if you want to follow along, you will need to find me on Facebook or Instagram. It's the same name on both platforms, The Camino Experience. Find that, click on follow, and let's have some fun. Also, my September Camino Experience group is now full. We had a fantastic call last week where we all got to meet and get to know each other. And we had a full discussion on how to plan your day-to-day stages on the trail and how, why, and when to book accommodations, if that is going to be your plan. What a great group. I can't wait to celebrate my big milestone birthday and my 20-year anniversary on the Camino with them in September. Okay, last thing before we meet Kimberly. If you are new to this podcast and if you are thinking of walking the Camino de Santiago, you may want to jump back to season 1 of the podcast. That's where we answer all those big questions first-time pilgrims have to answer in order to get their pilgrimage on the calendar. Look for episode 1 on whatever platform you are tuning in on. Okay, now let's go ahead and meet Kimberly. Kimberly, hi. Thank you so much for being with me on the podcast today. Welcome.
Hi, Nancy. Thanks for having me.
Well, I think, have been listening to the podcast for a while. Is that correct?
I have for almost a year now.
Okay.
Both your podcast and your audio guide.
Excellent. Very good. And I'd love to hear later on how that's going and how that has helped you to prepare for your Camino. So I look forward to that. So, Kimberly, how about we start where I always start, which is to put the pin in the map. Would you share with us your plans for your Camino experience?
Yes, I'm very excited. I'm finally going to get to Lourdes. So I am going to start my Camino in Lourdes. And then I will take a train from Lourdes to Saint John Pied de Port, where I will be meeting up with 2 of close friends. And then we will begin walking the Camino Frances together. We're going to stay a couple days in Saint John Pied de Port, get our bearings, get the jet lag off, and buy whatever we need. And then we're going to take it step by step all the way to Santiago de Compostela. And when we reach Sarria, we're going to join up with 3 other people that live in my area, and they're close friends. And they will walk the rest of the way. So there'll be 6 of us reaching Santiago together, or various times. Who knows how it's going to work out, but we're excited. And we're training together, which is, on our own. But then usually once or twice a week, we have a very long walk together and cheer each other on. And we've been doing that now for, we walked last year, but I would say we're really good about it since January.
Fantastic. How long will your entire Camino be?
Probably about 6 weeks.
6 weeks. Okay. Very good. All right. So that gives us a mental picture of what you're doing, starting in Saint Jean, ending in Santiago,
Hmm.
3 people to start, 6 people to end, about 6 weeks. Thanks for that. That gives us a
Yeah.
good picture of what you're doing. Now, when you mentioned that you're going to Lourdes, I actually kind of got chills. I'm not quite sure why. Will you share your motives or your reasons for starting in Lourdes?
It's, I'm 67. I'll turn 68 on during my Camino. And when I was a little girl, I think I was like 8 years old, I saw that Song of Bernadette movie with, and I fell in love with Saint Bernadette. And I just
Mm.
always had a devotion to her. And then years ago, I met a priest, and as I was going off to nursing school, he gave me a first class relic of a saint, and he had lots of them. It was just this beautiful display. It was like a cookie jar, and he said, "You can have any one you want, but I have one that I really would like you to have. I feel like it's meant to be yours." So I said, "Well, Father, of course I'll take that one. But what is it?"
That feels like a blessing to
Yeah, it
me.
was Saint Bernadette. And then coincidentally, after schooling, I became a certified nurse midwife, and I delivered many of my grandchildren. And my first grandson was born on Our Lady of Lourdes feast day. And
Okay.
so I don't know. It's just, like you have said many times, it's a God incident. So
Yeah.
I'm really, really excited. And when I saw that St. John P. du Port was so close to Lourdes, and in all your different maneuvers of getting there, I saw, oh, okay, I can fly into Toulouse, take the train to Lourdes, and then down to St. John P. du Port. So I'm very excited.
I wish people could see you. Your face is just beaming when you talk about going there, just beaming. Now, I want to clarify something. You used the phrase first class relic.
Mhm.
What does that mean?
That means that it is actually part of the person, either a bone or something that the saint has worn,
Mhm.
like a piece of her garment.
Okay.
And so I don't know how you get it. I think it's a gift from Rome. And so it was given to this priest, and who was a very dear friend of mine. He is since deceased. And then I have the honor. In fact, I'm kind of looking at it right now. It's in my living room, and she's like has a center spot in my home. So that's what I know basically what a first class relic is. And I know that
Okay.
if you touch something to a first class relic, like if I would touch my necklace or something, it would become a third class relic,
Okay.
which is just something that has, been very close to a saint. So I'm Catholic, and so I call in the saints and angels and everything. So I'm a firm believer.
Wonderful. Oh, I love knowing that. And so my understanding is that being in the presence of a relic is actually a blessing in itself, and it brings us closer to that saint and by extension to the divine. Do I understand that correctly?
You said it perfectly.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Great. So before we talk about the logistics of a 6-person group, I would love to explore a little bit more about the spiritual nature of this. And you said that you're Catholic. And so would you share with us the significance of this journey from that perspective?
Yes, because I'm seeing it all from that perspective. It's a deeply personal and spiritual journey, and it's just really inspired by my faith. And I just had a really personal experience encounter with Jesus many years ago, and I just desire to, like any relationship, I want to get close to him, and I feel like this is a great way to do it. I love faith sharing. I love connecting with others. I'm a nurse. I do physical histories and so I love to get to know people's histories. And it's just also an expression of gratitude. I was healthy most of my life, and then suddenly I was, just like anything on a Tuesday afternoon. One day I'm delivering a baby, and the next day I'm in bed for many, many years, for about 7 years,
Oh
and
gosh.
lost my job, lost everything. And I really thought I was on my way to meet Jesus. And I,
The quick way.
yeah, and it's funny how we cling to this world as deep as our faith is. But I,
Yes.
I said, no, no, no. But by the grace of God, they found out what I had. It was an autoimmune disease, and I got therapy. And so it's just, I'm walking as an expression of gratitude for
Mm.
healing after disability, and a celebration of my regained physical, ability. And then, of course, when I was sick, I watched The Way, so I was very much inspired by that movie, and now that I'm recently retired, I did heal and go back to work, and retired last year. And so I'm eager to embrace Spain again. I had the wonderful invitation to visit a friend's family who lived in Spain last year. And I just fell in love with the culture, the people, the food, the history, the architecture. It just captivated me. And so I really anticipate this being a life-changing experience. And I think walking alongside, friends and fellow pilgrims, each with their own reason and purpose, you can't help but be, moved. And then beyond the spiritual, of course, are the social, and the social aspects is I just really seek to challenge myself to improve my health after years of, sedentary life,
Mhm.
and just immerse myself in the beauty of the country and nature and friends and
Mm.
people. So I'm, yeah, I'm really excited and nervous. I think because of the physical, mostly because of the physical limitations. I mean, when I say sedentary, it was sedentary, because then when I went back to work, it was a pretty sedentary job. And
Okay.
so I've just really now in this past couple of months gotten my body moving. And I wish I could say I love exercise, but
Okay, sister of my heart.
yeah,
Not when there's a comfortable couch close by. No,
no,
thank
I
you.
know.
So, how long ago did you get back up from this setback? How long has that been since you went
Um,
back to work?
I went back to work after 7 years of disability, and I went back, gosh, about 5 years ago,
Okay.
and I worked again for 4 years. I am a certified nurse midwife. So before I got sick, I worked as a hospital-based midwife, delivering, babies and loving it. But then with licensure and things like that, I went back as a nursing director of of a a local large hospital nearby my area, and they were opening up a new labor and delivery unit. And I was a manager, when I was a midwife, but this was a huge, wonderful experience. We opened up a whole new labor and delivery, postpartum surgery, NICU, and it was just exhausting.
Oh
It was
my
it was
goodness.
so wonderful to see, see empty space transform into a beautiful unit, and hiring all the great staff and nurses. It took a village, let me tell you.
Mm, mm.
And unfortunately, my mother got sick during that time, and I
Ah,
just knew that it was time to devote to my family. And so
okay.
I retired, and it's different. It's a new transition like anything.
How long ago did you retire?
About a year
A
ago.
year ago. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Wow. Everything you've told me, I can just see your love for life. You
Mhm.
love to bring new life into the world, and your disability showed you love life. It's not time to move on to whatever's next. Let's hang on to life. I have questions. There's so much that I want to pull from this conversation. I'd like to go back for a few moments to the question of the spiritual journey. And you're taking your Catholic tradition with you into a country that is predominantly Catholic on a pilgrimage that is Catholic in origin. What do you think about the Tomb of St. James? Is that a significant spot for you, the destination itself? What role does that play for you?
I can't honestly say that that is, the big hurrah for me. The fact that St. James walked that area and evangelized and preached, and he actually was a martyr, died for Christ, is very inspiring. I've always prayed for courage and
Mm.
be able to speak up with my faith, and and to love people like Jesus did. So I mean the I think it's just like there's so many beautiful cathedrals. Santiago de Compostela is like a celebration of,
Mhm.
the cathedral, and then watching, the ceremonies they have there. Just the idea of walking in the feet, in the way of St. James. And that's why I chose the spiritual route. I'm sure he walked all over and things like that. But, I just think of St. James a lot, and the apostle, and just how hard it is. I mean, even when you have deep faith, sometimes it's just really hard. You want to do what you want to do. And so, um, I think that in itself, like I, God has healed me. I want the risk of walking, the constant transformation. I think we're on a continual pilgrimage, and I know Christ walks with me wherever I am. But this is hard for me. I mean, this I'm nervous about because of the physical. And so I think I'll be most excited just to, at the end of every day, like, "Oh, okay, I did it." I might not have walked as many. My friends might have gone ahead, and I said, "Oh, I'm going to stay in this albergue. I'll catch up to you some way."
Yeah.
But, it's just, you know, God gets you out of your comfort zone. He asks you to do things that you really, I just can't believe I'm doing it. I'm not athletic. I'm never been in sports. I'm the cheerleader, so
I love it.
yeah,
All spectator sports need spectators.
yeah. But it is a conscious day to, remember why I'm doing it. It was very well said what the question that you asked. I mean, it is basically to honor my faith, like I said earlier, and just to give gratitude for all the blessings in my life,
Mm.
and that the ability that I have, the time, and I have the finances, and I have the friends, to share this beautiful experience, who are also, uh, very faith filled women.
Mm.
And I know that will, during hard times, just really help each other, Um, so that'll be great.
Oh, people talk about going solo on this journey,
Mhm,
and it's the best way, and you got to go by yourself. And this is,
mhm,
this tremendous experience.
mhm.
In my observation, there is gold in doing this with people who you know and love. Just gold. Yeah.
Well, it's nice that you said that, because originally I was going to go by myself. And then I just mentioned it to people, that, hey, I'm going to do this. And they also said, hey, I think I'm going to do this too. So now it's really a collective effort.
Mm, mm.
And, we're respectful enough of each other that, and you have shared there, we're not going to be together the whole time. There'll be individual, we'll meet other people, talk with other people. We'll want silent days and times. And I'm a slowpoke, and these, I got speed walkers compared to me. So I'll be bringing up the rear a lot,
Well, someone's got to be back there
Yeah.
because I need
I'll
people to
I'll
talk
take it.
to.
I'll take it. Yeah. Oh, you're sweet.
I'm the slow one. Yeah. Well, maybe not so much slow as easily distracted by things and people and bars and flowers and landscapes and buildings. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a happy little slow pace. I stop to smell the flowers.
Oh my gosh. I was talking to someone recently who shared how she was noticing that she was pushing herself while she was on the Camino. And at one point she said, hold on, I'm just going to wander. because she was starting to sense injuries coming on. She's like, I think I'll just wander today. And it just changed her perspective and how she viewed it. No longer
Oh, I
was it
really
this
like
forced march to get to your destination. Yeah, it was really lovely.
that's a wise woman. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have
Yeah.
to remember that.
Yeah. So let's talk about this group of six and how it came to be and what your planning has been like. Would you start with the origin of how this came together? You touched on it earlier, but let's hear some more.
When I got sick, I relocated and moved near family, and I joined a parish. And to meet people, I went to Christ Renews His Parish Women's Retreat. And this was in 2015. So it's been 10 years now. And we have met frequently. We became the group of women, became very close friends, and they've been my lifeline and my prayer warriors, and just, consolation. And we do things together. They're my social
Yeah.
and my spiritual friends. And so there is a group out of that group. There's like 12 of us in that group. And there's four of us that are going to do the Camino together. And then one of my friend's husband is going to join us. And then another parishioner who I did not know, but lovely woman, she said she wanted to do it too. So it wasn't, an exclusive group. But then after a while, we did kind of say, okay, we have it all planned. This is our group. If somebody else wants to join, they're going to have to follow, in our dates and our times and, things like that. So I think we're pretty now firm set up in that. And at the first of the year, we started meeting weekly. The big decision was all those questions that you had asked. We used your printout in the audio guide, that was
Great.
so wonderful as a guide. What do we want to get out of this? When do we want to leave? And our time was kind of dictated by graduations and celebrations. And then one of my friend's brother is a bishop in Ecuador, and he's going to Rome, and he takes care of his mother in Ecuador. And so when we found that out, we were thinking maybe fall. I love the fall, but we then switched to the spring. And
Okay.
so I went, oh my goodness, that's early,
That's
so
really
yeah.
soon.
And so we met very, intensely to, decide on the time, and then decide on, who wants to do the whole, Camino Frances, who wants to, and even us. At the time I said, I'm just going to do Saria to Santiago. But then as I started reading and praying, I went, gosh, I think I want to do the whole thing. And then coincidentally, I kind of mentioned it on one of my walks, and two others wanted to. So, it
Uh-huh.
just kind of naturally came together, which was great, because I really think to do the whole thing, I really need some support. And I know fellow pilgrims on the road would help too, but it's nice to share it with people.
It's nice to share it with people with whom you have a history,
Yeah. Yeah.
who know you and know your faith, know your family life, know your community that you're connected with. Yeah, I think there's great value in that.
That's so true. And then of course we know each other. I mean, there's been, like um tension, and some things I was my ugly self, and I had to apologize. You just say things like when you're not thinking, or you're
Uh-huh.
frustrated, and so that has definitely come about. All the different personalities. So
Well, let's get into that a little
okay,
bit if you don't mind.
yeah,
What have been some of the challenges or the uglier bits in pulling together this group?
I think the challenges, of course, is trying to be respectful of everybody's time frames and other circumstances, especially when you are an individual and you have your own desire. I had my own plot of time that I wanted to go, and that's now totally different. because it was definitely a collaboration. I don't think I compromised. I really respected the reason why they chose that time. One woman is going to have grandchild before and after, and so as a midwife, there I went, okay, that trumps it, and
I'll
then
cut you
taking
that
care of
one.
your mother, I took care of my mother, and she passed away, and this woman's mother is in her 90s, and time is precious.
Hmm.
So that after my selfish first reaction was like, I wanted to go in this time, then thank God for second chances, and then of course all our different styles. I don't know if you can tell by talking to me, but I'm kind of spontaneous. I guess through a lot of things that happened in my life, I've when they say, make plans and listen to really God laugh, so
Hmm.
I saw a magnet once that says I can sum up my life in one sentence. Well, that didn't go as planned, so they wanted, like, right now, and I took the role of, we are, booked, in every albergue and every, hotel, and that was another thing. Do we want albergues? Do we want donativas? Do we want, what experience do we want? Do we want private rooms? Do we want luggage transport? So all of that, it's hard enough to decide just for myself because I see the possibilities in everything. And then when you have five other people interjecting, and at the time, everybody wanted to start at different places too. So it was a lot of like talking things out, leaving, going home, thinking about it, coming back the next week. And I think that's important, to talk things out and maybe not make the decision right then and there, like let's sleep on this, let's think about it.
Boy, that is the key with this Camino planning,
Yeah.
is not so much to force yourself to an answer, but to spend time in the question.
It's so true. So true.
Yeah, because the moment you pose the question, things start moving and working. And
Yeah.
I like how, I don't remember, I don't know where I got this from, but I think it might be Phil Cousineau from The Art of Pilgrimage.
Mhm.
Questions initiate the quest. It makes so much sense.
It's
So you
so
pose
true.
the question and then you let things start to work and
Yeah.
let the answers and the intuition come to you.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Well, it's such a cookie jar. I mean, to just the whole Camino Francis, like just even just the places that you want to see. And then I used all the wonderful guides that you had recommended. I really liked right here the Moon book by Bibi
Mm,
Barami. And of course
yes.
I used Friarly, and I used Johnny Walker, and I just read everything, and I listened to your guest. Your guest, would say, favorite places. And then I'm in all these threads. And so, Facebook threads and things like that. So I would bring a lot of information to the group. And so
Okay.
I had more of the time,
Mm,
and so I found I really liked doing it. And so I wanted to respect people by, if they really wanted to have, we're using the stopping points very similar to BB's, baby, however her name.
BB,
Yeah,
yeah.
baby.
Hmm.
We're pretty much doing her pit stops, and there are a few places where I couldn't find bookings, and so I loved listening to your podcast because you would say, well, take a taxi up or wherever you need to go and then take it back, because some of us are like bent on walking every single step. Some of us are like, say la vie,
I
whatever
love that.
happens. I'm
Yeah.
staying open. Of course, maybe it's the midwife in me, because in my group, patients would come to me and women would have this beautiful envision of what they wanted their labor and childbirth to look like, and as well I did too. But I have seen so many beautiful labors just, need some intervention and things like that.
Uh-huh.
So I would
Uh-huh.
just say, stay open. You just, okay, I'm going to do everything I can to make this the birth of your dreams. But that being said, behooves us to really talk about what might happen and, and educate.
Yeah. And if it does happen, here's how we respond.
Yes.
So crucial.
Yes. And then you build trust up too. So I think a lot of us right now, in the group are really growing in our relationship in dynamics of group settings. The gift of, they say that the Camino also is big on reconciliation. And so we're living the Camino right now. Like, we forgive ourselves and forgive others too, and, strive to be good, reasonable, emotionally healthy, human beings, which
Well, it's great to start practicing that ahead of time. Some grace, some mercy, some forgiveness. And I'll tell you, Kimberly, you're going to need that in the albergues.
well, let me tell you, the majority of us kind of overruled because I said, I think I'm going to just go travel with Nancy because you're so similar. Like, okay, I know that I'm chatty Cathy. I love meeting people, but I also really love my space and my quiet time, and sleep is just so precious to me, and I know I will need it. So there we are staying in a lot of private rooms.
Great.
And yet, we're staying in Refuge Arson, because we're not doing that big hike in
Great.
one day. And I said, well, everyone, we're going to have to stay in in an albergue, and, we get what we get. And,
Yeah.
after we said, well, that's fine, then I really am glad that we're having the whole experience, hotels and albergues and just everything.
Yes. It's one of the things I do with the groups I lead in May and September. I expose them to the variety of accommodations available on the Camino so that they can make their choices that are right for them from then on, from Pamplona on, because there's such a variety. And even if you say, we're staying exclusively in albergues, you are not going to get two experiences to be the same.
Right.
Everyone will be different. Every hotel, every hostal, every pension, every casa rural, everyone will be a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's great. Great plan.
Yeah, staying up. But I like that. I don't know if everybody likes that, but they're challenging that. We're all challenging ourselves in different
Sure.
ways. Me physically, and I know I'll meet other challenges. I have no idea that's coming my way. I hate the heat, so I'm gonna struggle with that. Hopefully, we won't have too many super, super hot days.
Yeah.
I don't want to walk early in the dark because I want to see the beauty, but
Yes. Yes. Well, there are strategies, what you've just said, starting early when it's hot. You can wait until first light. You don't have to walk in the dark. I don't think I've ever once walked in the dark over 20 years.
that's good to know.
Wait for first light, but be ready for first light,
Mhm.
right? Be ready to get out the door the moment that happens. Yeah. And the weather, we just don't know. We just
Right,
don't know what we're going to
right,
get.
right.
Yeah. Take a deep breath and hope for the best.
Yeah. And I kind of hope we
Yeah.
have it all. I'd like to have I'm not on the descent days or the climbing days. Everybody wants to do the Napoleon, the high route. And I'm like, well, geez, if we have to do the Van Carlos, I'm great with that.
I'll be okay. You know what? The first time I walked from Saint Jean, I was terrified of that high road. And so when I got there, it was in April, and they said, "Oh, I'm sorry, the high road's closed." I'm like, "Oh, thank you, God. Thank you, thank you, thank you." I was
Yeah.
terrified of that.
Yeah, this is where my faith is really put to the test. Okay,
Yeah,
well, this
right.
is,
Yeah, sure, God. I'm sure thousands of people do it every year. You know what? It's not that bad. It's not that bad. It is really challenging if the weather's not good. It's just really challenging. And the people who go over the Pyrenees in bad weather,
uh-huh.
boy, they got it. They're like, I can do anything.
Yeah,
I got this.
yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting the character that it brings out in us when we face these hard times on the trail.
Mhm.
We all want blue skies with puffy white clouds every
With the
day
breeze.
with a breeze, flowers just,
Yeah.
blowing in the breeze gently, not too hard. That's what we all want. But it's
Yeah.
those harder days that build the character and bring the character out within us. It's extraordinary.
Yeah. Well, it ain't pretty. I sweat like somebody did buckets, of water on me, where my friends, they had little beads of perspiration.
Oh my gosh. No, it's so uncomfortable.
One thing we did do as a group is we, definitely used all your resources, but we also reached out to the American pilgrims.
Mhm.
And there's an Orange County. I live in Southern California, and there was a chapter, and we looked it up, and they have community hikes, and just last week we went on one, and fellow pilgrims are just so, like yourself and others, they're not stingy with information, which is so lovely. And we did a hike, and I was literally the last one, and up that hill and back as at the car. But they said what made me feel good is this is just like the first walk to Orison, and if you guys did it, you could do it, and I went,
Right.
okay, it took me a long time, but I did it, and I
Yeah.
hopefully will be even stronger by the time we leave. And so that was really nice. And I
Yeah.
think it made everybody that went in my group saw like, oh, this is great.
Phew.
Yeah.
Okay, we can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That first day is tough. There's no way around it. There are parts that are extremely steep.
Yeah.
And anybody who's on a spiritual journey will hopefully dial into that before they take their first steps out of Saint Jean,
Hmm.
and just know that you're not doing this alone, and you're not on the trail alone ever, really.
Hmm.
There's always a pilgrim coming behind you. There's always someone ahead of you. And if you're walking in faith, you've got strength in that.
Hmm.
And we have to do our part to be prepared physically. So that cardiovascular health and strong legs are absolutely essential for those first 2 days.
Hmm. I
Yeah.
really realized how important it is. It is because I had gotten ill around Christmas time, and I had been in Europe in November, and I walked and walked and walked and walked. And then it was almost 3 weeks, almost a month, that I did not walk because every time I tried, just the lung capacity was not good. And
Ah,
it was just starting all over again, just from walking for months and then losing that month. So I definitely agree. And I guess that's what gets me walking every day too, which, you had mentioned just the importance of, just walk every day, get moving, body in motion stays in motion, like that commercial
yeah.
says. I don't know, even listening to people like yourself, like, hey, yeah, this happened, but you can still do it. And like
Yeah.
I said, if there are some days I was looking at our, I wanted to call BB and say, "Are you nuts?" Because I forget where it's from. I think it's from, yeah, Los Arcos to Villafranca Monte de Oro. I mean, you're walking 15, 15, 17, 18.5. Of course, I'm saying it miles and I shouldn't be, but,
You'll get to it. Don't worry. You'll get to it.
So, I mean, some days are 30 kilometers, and I'm like, oh, are you kidding me?
Those are big days.
Those
Yeah.
are big days. And I'm hoping that she did it. I haven't read as thoroughly yet. I don't know the terrain as much, but,
Yeah.
I would imagine that on those days that she's really putting forth it, they're more flatter walking days. I don't know.
Yeah. It could be. It could be. Or if we get into the mind of a guidebook author,
Hmm.
because I struggle with this. I've never followed those stages because I cap out at about 20 kilometers, and then I'm just not your fun person to be around. The longest I've ever gone on any Camino was 33 kilometers, and I was wrecked.
Wow.
I mean, I got in at 7 at night and I was wrecked. And I think what the guidebook authors do is they have to find a way to put together stages when there aren't uniform distances between towns. So they might pick 30 because their other choices were 18 or 42.
God.
And so they're like, okay, well, I guess we're going to have to do this. Or if they pick the town that's 20, that means the next day's really the choice of 10 kilometers or 50,
Hmm.
so not 50, I'm exaggerating.
No, no,
But
but I follow you.
so it's a challenge because I try to put together itineraries and I review people's itineraries in my groups, and it's a puzzle. absolutely a puzzle. So I often wonder, did they really mean for me to walk 30, or are they thinking I'm going to, cut that in half,
Mhm,
or are they thinking I'm going to do a 20 and then a short 10?
mhm,
So I think the important thing with those guidebook stages is to put it up against your desired experience and your abilities and adjust it accordingly.
mhm. Thank you for saying that. I do know that we've talked about that in our group, and I feel we do have to address it a little bit more because we still have a lot of time left. That when I really put it down in writing and I saw those long days, I did use ultimately the majority of my booking is with booking.com, and I
Mhm.
only book when you'd have free cancellations. And
Great.
so I would like to stay in a lot of the places that I book, but not necessarily that day. Like maybe I've heard it said so much. Maybe some days you collectively have a little bit more energy and you want to walk further. Or
Yeah.
there's days like, oh, heck no, I'm sorry, guys, I'm not going to make it these,
Yeah.
30 kilometers. So I, I think we're going to have some good heart to hearts where you guys can stay according to the plan, and whoever doesn't want to, just to respect that, and they'll catch up some way, be a
Yeah.
taxi or whatever. So I think those conversations, now that we have our bookings and we know the anticipated kilometers each day, when you write it, when you look at it, I'm like,
Mm.
I think we need to talk about this and, like you said, have some plans, like realistically.
Plan B. Because the way I go back to simple math, and simple math is the only math I do. Don't talk geometry and algebra with me. I can add, subtract, divide, and multiply. But if you take a 30-kilometer day at a pace of, let's say, 4 kilometers per hour, that's 7.5 hours of walking, not including breaks,
Right.
with no breaks. And I'll tell you, I take a break every hour to hour and a half. So I'm going to be out there all day long and into the evening.
Yeah.
And so, just with some simple math, you can take that distance and go, is that how long I want to be on the trail?
Right.
And then you nailed it. Check the terrain. Is it uphill, downhill, flat? What is it? And I'll tell you, flat can be just as challenging as up and down because of the tedium, because there's nothing for you to go, all right, nothing to rally your, I'm going up now, I'm going down now.
Mhm.
It can be very tedious. So these are good questions to raise. I love that you're bringing these up.
Okay. Well, if you can think of anything else that bring up, because you've done groups, so you see the dynamics, So I appreciate your expertise.
Well, I think you're far ahead of any curve, actually, when you have said that you've taken the questions that I provided in the audio guide and asked them, have those conversations with people. Even if you don't have answers amongst the group,
Mhm,
at least you've shown the respect to ask the questions, to start saying, this is our journey, but it's also your journey.
mhm,
And so let's talk about what could come up, not because we're going to foresee the worst thing happening, but rather we're looking at, if these three things happen, how might we deal with them as a group with respect for each person's journey?
mhm.
And you cannot anticipate everything that's going to happen. And so I give you just what the top 5 things that come up all the time. And then you just that builds a skill set for you. Oh, we know how to talk to each other about these things,
Mhm.
so that when they come up on the trail, oh, wait a minute, we know how to talk about this. And then you can address it. Find a terrace, everybody get a coffee. Let's talk this through. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the one nice thing. I did say earlier we weren't exclusive, but logically and emotionally, we knew some people we maybe would not travel well with, so
Mm.
luckily that didn't come up. I mean, our group knows each other for a while. We we know our touchy points and where we rise to the occasion, and we love each other so much that even if we get so mad, I think we're going to come home even closer friends. That I will be stunned if we just say, oh, I'm never going to travel with her again, or him again, or so.
Well, and you might. You might say, let's not do this kind of trip again together because that didn't work as well as we'd
Yeah,
hoped. But it doesn't stop me from loving you
right.
and wanting to be your friend back home.
Right.
Yeah. Boy, those are tough dynamics, aren't they?
Yeah, especially when you're really going with the spiritual, the holy goal in mind, so
Yes. Everybody's got
examination
their
at
halo
conference.
on.
Yeah.
Halo's on nice and straight when you start out, but boy, I
Yeah.
just got kicked off to the side there.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
you brought up coming home. I'd love to talk just for a few minutes about what you anticipate for after the Camino, bringing this back home into your life. Have you thought about that yet?
Um, yes, I have. I mean, I've had such profound experiences of God's love for me, because I'm a more. I ask for tangible signs, and He's so faithful. I see miracles, and I've had such earth shaking things happen to me that my faith cannot be moved. So I know I'm going to come back a changed person after meeting so many people and experiences and good, bad, ugly, that I liked what they said at the walk from the American Pilgrims. You'll come back and people are just going to drone you out because you're going to be so excited. You're going to be talking to everybody about it. So I'm glad that we will have each other to talk about. I know my family is such strong cheerleaders. I think they're very proud of me to do this. And I would really like to bring the spirit of the Camino back. And my dream is that we would have 8 grandkids, and they're all at the age now that they can pretty much walk like a smaller Camino. I would love to do a family trip again. They say you come back and you want to do it often. And so I'd like to kind of plan that. But I just want to bring home the spirit of the Camino. And I try to do that in my everyday life. So I'm hoping that after having a lived experience, that I'll understand it more and I'll know myself better. Like I'm definitely coming out in risk, and I think that's going to help guide me, like, okay, do you remember this tough day? Do you remember that descent on Molinesca, that everybody talks about? You did it. You just got to do it slow and steady. You can do this, girl. You can, because I always
Yeah.
take my Rolodex of tough times and how I got through it, and I just build upon it. So I know when I come home, there's going to be it's such an adventure for me. It's a physical adventure for me, one that I've never had before. I've had
Hmm.
lots of nice vacations, but this is a physical challenge for me. And I think I'm going to be glad that my body's stronger, or maybe come home with a couple broken bones. I don't know, but
Oh, let's not put that out
either
there.
way,
Cancel
yeah.
that.
But even if, like, hey, you did it, like, what's the worst that can happen? You break a bone or you die on the Camino. I've told the kids, even, okay, kids, just leave me there. Just just don't spend the money and bring me home. I'm fine. I mean, because you hear about this, you've had guests,
Sure.
that have been
Sure.
so moving.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping I get home and I get home in one piece.
That's a good intention. Let's set that as our intention.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, I have one more question for you, Kimberly. Is there any question that you wish someone would ask you about your Camino, but they haven't yet?
Hmm, I don't think so. I'm so transparent, that I'll tell them even if they don't ask.
Oh, love
I mean,
that.
I'm just like, they're going to get what they get. But
I want to hang out with you.
I think, yeah, hmm, that's a good one, but I can't think of anything.
It's okay. Some people have something. Yeah, I really want to talk about this. Why won't someone ask me? But no, not everybody. Good.
No,
All right. Well, any last minute words? Anything else you'd like to share with us?
no, I just want to thank you for this forum because I could not have put this together without all your recommendations, even your Matrix ITA and your, the health insurance. And you made it you're talking yourself out of a job because, I know I would love just to go for your company. But, you are, like I said earlier, you're not stingy with anything. And as a first time pilgrim, I am so completely grateful because I could not have done this without your forum. I
Oh,
really, really could not.
thank you. When I created the audio guide, what I wanted to do was take me as a guide with what I do on the trail with my pilgrims and make it available to everybody.
Hmm.
And that was my goal. And I tried to make it easily accessible and affordable and all of that. So I'm hoping that people will be hearing this and go, wait a second, I need that audio guide and go take a look at what's in there. Cause I really put my heart into that. I'm so happy that came out and that it's making a difference for you.
Thank you. Yes. Well, I do have one question. I heard you on some podcast, and it was like they were asking you 20 questions, and you had mentioned
Yes,
that you love cheesecake, and there was a place that you went to, and I have a friend who loves cheesecake, and I need to know the name of that place.
absolutely. It's Cafe Airas Nunes. And I'll put that in the show
Thank
notes.
you.
Airas Nunes.
Okay.
Oh my
And is
gosh.
that in Santiago?
Santiago,
Okay.
right in the historic center. It's just, yeah, there are a couple things I love about it. But if you go into the cafe and go all the way to the back, there's a room in the back with a sunlight with comfortable couches and chairs. And so
Oh.
you can just go plop down, get your cheesecake and enjoy. Yeah, it's like eating a sweet cloud.
Oh, thanks for that.
Highly recommended. Well, that's a great note to end on.
Thank you.
Kimberly, thank you so much for joining me today. I've really enjoyed our conversation, and I think it's going to make a difference for my listeners. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. It was a pleasure.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye bye.